All right, let's talk about how to choose a CPU. For those of you who are new to this, the CPU is the brains of the operation. It determines how many plugins we can run at the same time, and if we overload our CPU, we usually have a lot of technical problems. So it's in our interest to get as much power as possible, even if we're kind of doing, what's the word, not so intensive stuff if your needs are more meager. So there's a handful of things that are very important with the CPU. The performance is by far the big one, but there are others as well. And in particular, the wattage it uses. I like to use as low a wattage of CPU as possible for the same reason that I use low wattage lights. But there's one extra factor that goes beyond just trying to be green. But why is going green to make me use a lisp voice? Anyway, yeah, that's kind of funny. But no, the bigger issue here is the power supply on the computer. And that's something we'll get into a little bit later. But when we have a power supply of limited wattage, and some of you guys, I know for me, I'm running 4 hard drives. So if you're getting to these multi-hard drive rigs, the more stuff you hook into that computer, the more strain you put on the power supply, more problems you have. So it's just best and more efficient to get a low wattage CPU. So those two factors are the big ones. And I mentioned earlier that I'm sticking with Intel for life, or at least for the foreseeable future. But you may go AMD, but that's the other factor. So between those three things, let's go ahead and first figure out what the fastest processor we can get for the money. And this particular website here, cpubenchmark.net, is freaking awesome. It's a big deal with the information I show you on this particular video series here is accurate for years and years and years. And this site is one of the secrets for doing that. I have no idea what 2012 is going to bring, or, well, I should. I've only got a month left of it. No, I have no idea what 2020 is going to bring. That's what I meant to say. Okay, so using this site, we always know we can find or get up to date within seconds, I guess, minutes. I don't know. Okay, and you noticed I clicked on high-end CPUs here. We don't care about anything low-end. These are old things. We want new stuff. All right, so first thing we see is the processor with some kind of name. It looks like some kind of army thing, and we see some numbers, which I have no idea what units these are, kilobonkles or niner fibers. I don't know. And then you see the price. Now, what does these niner fibers mean? Well, that is these guys make test software that just stresses the hell out of the processor, and the guy that gets out the fastest gets the most points, something like that. So we can basically say this is the fastest processor on Earth for us mere mortals. But it costs $2,000, and that's just a CPU, no RAM, no hard drive, just the CPU. Ow! So this one's $3,600. Ow! And notice that the $3,600 one costs almost twice as much, but it actually is slower than this other guy. So the thing is, the performance is not always indicative of the price. And that's good for us because that means we can get a really inexpensive processor for a good value if we know about this website, which you now do. Okay, now I mentioned earlier my budget is $300 for a CPU. I'm going to build what I call a high-end machine that should last me 5 years easy. And so my budget is $300. I will not go over that for any reason, period. That's the rule. And I don't care about anything else. I'm kind of gonna have discipline here. $305 and it's tempting? No. And the big thing about these CPU numbers here, it's very important to remember that and get too wound up like, oh, this one has 15,000, but this one's only got 13,000. If you were on these computers and actually doing mixing and whatnot, you would not feel a difference. You wouldn't notice at all. What I kind of like to think of is these little colored bars here indicate how many instances of Superior Drummer or whatever plugin it is that you've got. You can do, let's say, 40 with this one, and maybe 41 with this one, and maybe 42 with this one. Like, where it gets to be ridiculous. And as far as the numbers are concerned, here in 2012, I've had a computer for 2 years. I mean, I'm recording bands all the time, and I make my living do this, and my processor is a 1090T, which is an AMD, by the way, even though it's the last one I plan on buying. I'm at 5,600 units, kilobonkles. So 5,600 units is handling all my needs. And ironically, it's still $300. That's kind of funny. Anyway, okay, so now we got an idea what's going on. I'm going to just scroll down and find the first processor that's under $300. Okay, 350, 1600. Oh, we're getting 289. Awesome. Okay, and this is an Intel i7. The Core i7 I happen to know was kind of a consumer grade CPU, and that's what we want. Yeah, this is just kind of knowledge I have, I guess. You'd have to research this or something. The Xeon is more for servers and hardcore stuff, which that sounds really good, but we're going to spend a fortune on motherboards and hardware for it. So we want to kind of avoid that. For what we're doing here, consumer grade's just fine. Okay, so maybe I found the one. She's $289, and here's the thing. These guys don't sell anything. And they used to link directly to Newegg, but they've changed their system all around. I don't really know what they're trying to do. But I know I like to buy from Newegg, so I'm going to copy that particular processor name. Now keep in mind, they like to add like S and K and things like that to it. I don't want that. I want the regular one. So when we search for it, the K and all that might come up. So keep that in mind. Okay, so yeah, I buy from Newegg. You can buy wherever you want. I like Newegg. They've been good to me. If I have problems, they've taken returns and been good to me. All right, now what I just mentioned was this whole 3770K. I didn't want the K. I want the regular one. That's over my budget. See? Oh, here we go. And see, the pricing was a little bit wrong. I think they said it was $289 over here. Yeah, $289. So let's got to keep that in mind. You always have to check Newegg and kind of go back and forth. That's common. These prices fluctuate all the time. These guys are always meddling with the market and jacking up prices and making them real cheap and all this stuff. But anyway, for $289, I'm happy. So let's click on this dude. And as I mentioned, the wattage thing is very important to me. Like I happen to know that the K version, is that the K? Where'd the K version go? Well, maybe not. Anyway, there are certain versions of the same exact processor which are going to chew up like 140 watts or something like that, 130 watts, as opposed to 77. The lower the wattage, the less stress on everything else, so it just makes sense. And the electric bill might be $4 cheaper for the year. I don't know. Whatever. Okay, so I know I like this processor. It meets all my needs. It's Intel. Its numbers are fast as hell. And it is low wattage. I'm buying it.